Mr. Valdez, Mr. Peng here will pay you $10,000 in cash to shoot him in the head right now. The thing about this moment wasn't that someone was offering me a large sum of money to pick up a gun and put a hole in their skull with it. The thing about this moment was that this was not the first time in 1 month I'd been asked to do it. But it was the first time I'd been asked to do it in the office of a major Chicago law firm, so I had that going for me, which was nice. The Mr. Peng in question, with a young translator hovering directly behind him, stood by the desk of Lloyd Barnes, senior partner of Wilson, Barnes, Jimenez, and Park. Wilson Barnes's offices took up 3 floors at 875 North Michigan, which most people referred to as the John Hancock Center, for the same reason that the other very tall Chicago building was the Sears Tower, no matter who had the naming rights. Barnes himself sat at his very large, very modern desk, on which rested a number of intriguing objets d'art, a framed photo of his kids, and a Smith & Wesson M&P handgun, basic police issue. I looked around the office and then turned to Barnes. He was the one who had summoned me with the promise of a job, shook my hand as I entered his office, and exchanged pleasantries and introductions before stating the nature of the business at hand. It seemed fair to address him first. "Your office has a lovely view of the lake, Mr. Barnes," I said. "It would be a shame to ruin it with blood spatter." "Well, if everything goes well, it'll only be blood spattered for a few moments." "It might not go well," I said. Barnes smiled at this. "It's a risk I'm willing for you to take." "You might be willing to," I replied. "I'm not sure I am." "But this is your job," Barnes said. I sighed and looked over to Peng, still standing there quietly while his translator murmured into his ear. "Is there a reason you want me to shoot and kill you, sir?" I asked. Peng looked uncomfortable after this was translated for him. "I don't want to die. I just want to be shot," his translator interpreted after a moment. I pointed to the Smith & Wesson. "That's not a surgical instrument. It's a weapon. This thing will blow out the back of your head, and no matter what else happens, you will die, sir. It's not going to be simple or pleasant, so you should have a good reason for me to kill you, and I should be able to know what it is." Peng looked over at Barnes after this was translated. Barnes nodded at him. "I need to get to Beijing," Peng said through his translator. "There are planes," I said. "You could be there in 14 hours, brains intact." "That's not fast enough," Barnes said. I turned back to him. "Then you can explain why, or I'm leaving." "Mr. Peng is in competition for a very important business deal in mainland China, and he reached an understanding with a major American bank for its funding," Barnes said, motioning to Peng. "Unfortunately, a competitor had the same idea and reached a similar understanding with another bank here in Chicago. That competitor is on a plane that departed O'Hare," and here Barnes checked his watch, "20 minutes ago. There's not another flight to Beijing for several hours. The deal is literally first come, first served. Mr. Peng needs to get there first. There's no other option." "First come, first served" doesn't sound like an entirely legitimate way for a major business deal to come together, I said. Barnes smiled again. "These are exciting times in a competitive business environment, Mr. Valdez. May I call you Tony?" "Let's stick to Mr. Valdez for now." "Fine. As I said, exciting times, and as Mr. Peng's American law firm, we're committed to helping him achieve his success." "You'll be paid no matter what happens, though," I said. "Of course, but if he's successful, we'll be paid more," Barnes said. Peng spoke again, noticeably curt. "Mr. Peng wishes to know what the problem is," his translator said. "He expected to be done with this by now."